Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's latest effort, comes out of the gate, a 3-hour epic character study, makes $80 million at the box office. I mean, how does that happen? We're going to talk
R-rated.
about it.
Dude,
R-rated. Very, very R-rated.
that's not very
3 hour.
R-rated. There's just like one scene, pretty much.
Yeah, well, yeah, a couple scenes. Anyways, all right, Todd, tell us about Oppenheimer and what you thought.
All right. Well, it's about J. Robert Oppenheimer, which they're like, what does a J stand for? And they're like, it stands for nothing or whatever. I looked it up, and his first name is actually Julius, which
Julius.
yeah. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But it's played by Cillian Murphy, and he was this renowned physicist who was tasked with developing the first atomic bomb before anybody else could. Like, the bomb needed to be theorized, it needed to be created, it needed to work, and it needed to be dropped, and not only to end World War II, but to send a message to the rest of the world. And it follows Oppenheimer in a non-linear storyline, of course, because it's a Nolan movie. And
Of course.
yeah, so much of the movie is hinging on this like passing little scene of where Oppenheimer picks up Albert Einstein's hat, which is Einstein's played by Tom Conti, and that's another just like a total Nolan thing that would be like the biggest deal in this movie. But the military guy who oversees the operation is played by Matt Damon. Emily Blunt plays Oppenheimer's wife. Florence Pugh plays his lover, and Robert Downey Jr. plays Louis Strauss, who is basically the brains behind recruiting Oppenheimer to do this. And his storyline is played in black and white at a future date. And yeah, the cast is astonishing here. Every single minor character is played by a famous person. Like, there are bit parts by Oscar winners like Casey Affleck and Gary Oldman. Benny Safdie has.
I knew it was Gary Oldman, by the way.
Oh,
like
I
when he first was on, I'm like, that's Gary Oldman.
Yeah, it was all in the eyes. You could tell.
Now he's been Churchill and Truman.
Yeah, that's weird. Benny Safdie has a funky accent, and I didn't even know he was in this until he was on it. But he's got a pretty big part. Josh Hartnett is in this. Rami Malek, young William Miller. They even have Josh Peck show up to just literally push a button. I was like, oh, that was his whole part. Cool.
Don't forget Alden Ehrenreich and Malarkey. Scott Grimes.
Yeah, they're on this too. And like, and
Goldwyn, Jason Clarke.
The list goes on and on. Okay, and David Krumholtz evidently is that guy who looks like the love child between Alfred Molina and Nathan Lane. Like, I had no idea who that was. I was like, it kind of looks like young Alfred Molina, and it kind of looks like young Nathan Lane. Who the hell is that? I didn't know till the credits it was David Krumholtz.
About halfway through, I was like, is that Bernard?
I never saw it, so this movie has an insanely epic scope. Like, it really, really thinks that it's The Godfather Part 2 with its parallel narratives and extended scenes in front of a Congress. But its clear companion to me, given its politics and its moving parts, is Mank. Like, it's about this genius and his misunderstood partner, one of which is getting railroaded because of their communist ties and whatnot. And it's also made by a master filmmaker, and the only difference is that this is also an immersive visual and audio experience, in addition to all the long stretches of just like simply talking behind the scenes. It really takes off after about 40 minutes. It starts a little slow for me. Like, I get that you need to establish inspiration and characters, but it could have done so at a brisker manner because the runtime is long as it is, but the more involving parts later were cut really heavily to the point that there's actually like blatant continuity errors that I noticed, which isn't normally a thing for a Nolan movie, but it just seems so rushed in the last like hour and a half. The score is like omnipresent. Like, it's a great score, but it's so loud and booming, and you never really get a chance to let some scenes breathe, which I would have liked more, because there are some like more tender moments that don't really get the time to be that. The acting is mostly pretty great though. Like, Cillian Murphy underplays it to the point that he reminded me most of like Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. Like, it's a best actor caliber role, and he just like lives in it. Every ounce of his body is this character, and even though he doesn't do a whole lot emotionally, he's fantastic. Emily Blunt is kind of the weak link in the movie. Like, she's just kind of off. Her emotional range is not all that there, and it's not really believable. Florence Pugh is like alluring, and you wanted to see more of her. I'm just not really sure why they had to play her character like that. Robert Downey Jr. has the Oscar scene, and he kind of looks more like Oppenheimer than Cillian Murphy looks like Oppenheimer, but I have no clue why that character was not played by David Strathairn. It seems like a role that was written for him, but the movie is incredibly intense. It builds suspense without really basically any action, and it kind of is a misleading trailer in that way. The actual testing of the bomb is sort of anticlimactic for me because I get that you want to make it different and stuff, but that was the moment where Nolan probably should have just shown what he can do. But like, getting the full immersion of the sounds and visuals would have been cooler. But it works this way just because it's more of a character study than it is a thriller anyway. And the final act works way better than it should too, because like the movie is so meticulous and impressive that it's hard to take issue with anything, even though there are some like corny writing areas and some pacing issues. It doesn't matter because like this thing is put together so perfectly by Nolan, and the final scenes are haunting. It isn't the best Nolan movie, and it's not his most entertaining movie, but it is his attempt to be both at the same time, which I think is pretty commendable. I'm giving it's a 3.5-star movie. It is certainly one of the achievements of the year that I've appreciated most.
Yeah, I went and saw this in IMAX. I drove an hour to go see this in IMAX. Oh, by the way, just some of the names you forgot to mention that are in this cast: Matthew Modine, Polka Dot Man himself, David Dastmalchian, who seems to be in everything. He's the that guy.
Yeah.
Dane DeHaan. Name that.
I could have sat there all day and read the list.
Yeah. Let's see here. Zach is gonna love this movie because Olivia Thirlby is in it. James Remar. One of the things I actually appreciated about this movie is that so many of the so many of the side characters are played by recognizable faces. Because even with them played by recognizable faces, they're hard to tell apart because there's so many of them.
When it rushes by, so like it flips through these scenes so quickly that it's like you don't really get a chance to get to know a lot of these side characters. But
yeah, but at the same time, never have I wanted to go back and watch a 3-hour movie again more, because I was just totally taken in by everything that was going on in this movie. The way it's told just draws you in, and like you said, there's suspense without any real action taking place. The Cillian Murphy, this is a tour de force career achievement. I can't imagine anybody else this year giving a better performance than Cillian Murphy in this. Like this is an all-timer, I feel like, by him. And when he is the heart and soul of your movie, I mean, you can't really go wrong. And then you add to it the masterful way that Nolan crafts this story, and the masterful way he puts it all together in the visuals and the sound. One thing I didn't realize quite until this movie is just how much Nolan relies on and respects his score, and how well he uses it. Like if it's a Nolan movie, you know it's going to have a brilliant score, and you know it's going to be used to its full capacity. And he does that so well here. And that score, like you said, it's kind of ever present, but you don't mind it because it is just so hauntingly perfect for every moment. You said you felt Emily Blunt was a little off, which I could see. She does have her moment at the end. The one that I felt was in a different movie was Matt Damon. I mean, there are so many scenes where Matt Damon is in them, and it's like, this is a different, like, and most of them are in the trailer. Like, why? Because this is the most important thing to happen in the history of the world. And I'm like, what movie are you in? Or the scene where it's near zero. What do you want? Zero. I'd like zero. Like, I mean, he has those moments like, you are not in the same movie here, but okay, it works. Yeah. As I kept thinking about this, especially comparing the two, Barbie and Oppenheimer, I kept on thinking which one was the better movie, right? You can't help but compare the two. And all weekend, because I saw this on Friday, I saw Barbie on Thursday, and all weekend I was thinking I thought Barbie was the better movie. And then as I just started to process Oppenheimer and the brilliance of the storytelling, the brilliance of the filmmaking, the brilliance of the performances, and just the brilliance of the visuals and how it was all meticulously put together in this jam-packed 3-hour epic which again, you don't see many 3-hour epic character studies, right? You don't see that very often. I mean, you mentioned Godfather Part 2. Godfather Part 2 was 2 different character studies, right? You don't see this that often. You can't. I mean, this is filmmaking at its high at the highest order, and Christopher Nolan just is on top of his game, and this is a 4-star movie for me. Also, now, right now, I have it above Barbie. Right now, honestly, I have it as my best movie of the year. I honestly don't think I believe that, but I honestly don't know. I feel like I need to see it again. So, it's just too good on every level to deny it that position right now.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't. It does have a lot of the things that I feel like would make it be remembered later in the year. I don't know. I don't know why this is being released in the middle of the summer. Like, this seems like something that should have been released in November, and this would be a big Oscar player then. But now it has the hurdles of like the whole. I mean, I know it probably wouldn't have made $80 million opening weekend in November, but
It might have. I mean, think of how much more it could have made if it wasn't up against Barbie. Or did it make that much because it was up against Barbie?
I think it made that much. Or I don't think it would have made it as much if it wasn't up against Barbie, because
I mean, it kind of became
there
a
was,
dual campaign between the two of them.
yeah, the double feature thing. There was probably like the wife's going to see Barbie, the husband's going to see Oppenheimer or something. There's probably a lot of that, and there's probably just like, oh, we're good. This is the weekend we're going to spend at the movies, obviously, because these 2 movies are coming out, and they marketed the hell out of both of the movies. I think it came out. I think it was because it was with Barbie that it made this much money, but it's also just because it's really good. But it's an R-rated 3-hour character study, and it's a monster box office hit. Like, I don't. I never thought that was possible. It's cool. And I mean, I think it's the major Oscar player in almost every category, every eligible category. I could see it. I
Cillian
could see it being
Murphy,
like a top 5 Best Picture
Robert Downey
contender.
Jr. I mean, do both of them win? There's a world where both of them win. There's a world where
I mean,
both of them should win.
well, yeah, well, but who knows what else is coming out? Or
Yeah.
I mean, they're also up against Leo and De Niro in their 3-hour character study.
4, isn't it 4?
Yeah, well, yeah, probably it's
Close
like
to
3.5. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, at this point, it's just speculation. Like, I know a lot of like people like to be hot takes and say like, because now I looked on Bovada. This is like Oppenheimer's a -125 favorite for Best Picture. That's absurd. It's July. Just get over yourself, you know. And a lot of people are going to start propping up like, oh, Ryan Gosling's the best supporting actor shoe-in. It's like, yeah, you haven't seen anything yet. So what are you talking about? So
yeah,
but we'll see. Robert Downey Jr. does seem like a best supporting actor nominee though. He has
at
the
least
scene.
a nominee. He has the scene. It's been 15 years since his last nomination.
That is true.
That is true. And that was 16 years removed from his first. So he's due for another one. Yeah. I just love that we got, like, this weekend was like you said, for the last year, this weekend was so hyped up. You know, the whole Barbenheimer, Barbie and Oppenheimer, they're going to both hit the theaters same time. Which one are you going to see? You're going to see both of them. And they turn out to both be this good and be this successful. It's amazing. I mean, take notes, Hollywood. Well, no. Finish the strikes, then take notes. Because you can't take notes right now because your writers aren't working. But anyways,
I see what you did.
You see what I did there? But yeah, this is the way to do it. I mean, make an event weekend. Also, the other thing I was just thinking about: has there ever been a more quickly forgotten about box office hit than Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1?
Yeah.
Is anybody seeing that right now? How much money did that make this weekend?
So yeah, the box office had a very healthy weekend.
Well, 4 stars from me on Oppenheimer, 3.5 from Todd. I mean, still looking at it. Has there ever been a box office or just an opening weekend quite like this? I know a lot of people pointed to Dark Knight and Mamma Mia coming out in the same weekend, but I always saw that as more. Mamma Mia kind of got dragged along because too many people went to go see Dark Knight and they couldn't get tickets, so they went to Mamma Mia.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, in this, it's like these are two like master filmmakers making their movies in the middle of the summer.